Thank you so much for joining us for this month's Curious Conversation. Today we will be focusing on the power of place and the importance of learning the full history of your neighborhood and your community. This is also taking place during civic season, which occurs from Juneteenth until July 4th, and is all about discovering your story, your role in history, as well as understanding our past and shaping our future. It is by learning this history through the lens of place and having honest and curious conversations like the one that we're about to have right now that we hope to become good caretakers of the land and of each other for future generations to come. So joining me for this conversation today, we have Samson Levingston. Samson Levingston is an Indiana native, lover of Indiana history, and creator of Through Two Eyes, a platform that encourages people to discover who they are through discovering where they are. And so, again, there's no better person to have this conversation than Samson. So Samson, thank you so much.
Let's go, Zara. I'm excited to do this.
Excited too.
You're here in my second home, Indiana Avenue. There's no place I'd rather be, honest.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to hear more about why this place is so important to you and why it's so important to the community.
Let's go, let's do it.
Let's walk and talk.
Let's do it. After I graduated college, I didn't know who I was really, but I did know where I was, and that was here. So I figured if I discovered more about where I was, maybe some way, some roundabout way, I'd be able to figure out who I was. That's exactly what happened. I started discovering Indiana, which helped me discover myself, and it brought me home to Indiana Avenue. And now I get to start that journey for so many other people, or meet them where they are in that journey of not discovery of just self, but discovery of place as well.
Yeah, like growing up here, right? You kind of didn't see yourself in the history that you were learning about in school?
No, yeah, and not even just in school, and about seeing place and, having this curious, honest conversation with Prairie. I mean, there's even been parts of not just that museum, but other museums across Central Indiana where you don't necessarily see yourself and this glowing light that you do when you're on Indiana Avenue.
Sure.
And so I just wanted to discover these different neighborhoods and different stories that haven't always been told and figure out the best way to share that with people that's engaging and interactive.
And so why do you think place has so much power?
It's so much that we do not know, but we do know where we are. We know our place, but not at the levels that we would like to. And so I feel like the more we get to learn who was there, what was there, how they were operating, what was going on, whether it even was a city there or a neighborhood, the more we get to just get excited about the history that's there, and it helps prepare us for the future that we want in that same place. I think it's hard to create or imagine a place or a space where you don't know what's been there. Look, we're let's go. Okay, look here. And so right here, Indiana Avenue, this area since the 1890s, this is what I'm talking about. This are the people that look most like me, most like you, were doing their thing. And so I grew up here in this city, and I was like, where is that? I know we had to be somewhere doing something other than just what I'm reading about or hearing about.
Or what's being told to
you. Or what's being told, right? And so to see it out here on the avenue, and this marker's been here since I've been in Indianapolis, but I didn't see it until I was 22 years old.
Wow.
Where I put my eyes on it, and it changed the way I saw the city, changed the way other people saw the city. And so it matters, your place, right?
Yeah,
and this place is significant.
Yeah, it has the ability to shape our identities,
100%.
Our behaviors, our attitudes, all of that. And so the place is shaping us. How do you think that even through these walk and talk tours, we're also able to shape the place?
Well, we get an understanding of where we are. So it's not just about who we are as a city, but we need to know what's happened here. And so literally every day that I bring people walking through a city that encourages you to drive, right? Once I slow them down and walk them through, it changes their relationship with the place. Any area, any neighborhood that you drive through, walk through it one time and see if your relationship with that neighborhood and that community has not changed forever just from walking. Whether that's a great walk, or it's a walk where there's not sidewalks or streetlights, or it's a walk on the cultural trail. Walk the neighborhood one time and you will take away something that you never had before, I promise you.
Well, and even going on your Indiana Avenue tour and connecting not just with the place, but with the people that live in those communities, we're connecting with the residents that live in these surrounding communities. There's a quote, I was reading this article called "Time Spent Building Communities is Never Wasted." And this quote actually really reminded me of the way that you connect with the residents in these communities. But it said, "We cannot achieve the vision for our communities if we do not truly relate to and connect with one another in an authentic way." And so the walk and talks become very personal as we're like walking through Ransom Place and walking through these neighborhoods and meeting the residents along the way. What have you noticed about the connections that you've built over time?
That they're genuine, and that and they're not, the people who are tied to this history are not, did not live ages and ages ago. They're living now. They are active members of this community. And so when you walk through and you get to talk to residents who lived here and to hear about not just the changes that are well documented in the newspaper, but the changes about trees being cut down in the neighborhood or just kids running around and playing, you get to hear what made the neighborhood from the residents who lived here. And so anytime you walk a neighborhood, you get the chance to just have these genuine interactions that you can't have when you're driving and flying through. And so since I've walked, I've met people from the neighborhood, and you get a sense of at least somewhat what Ransom Place must have felt like on a large scale. And that's from walking through, seeing the homes, seeing the theaters, seeing the stores, the clubs, things like that, I think is really rewarding. So we talk about making a city and an equitable, valuable city. And we do it without input for the residents who are there, right? We look at a neighborhood from the outside, we have other people come in and say, this is what would make this neighborhood better. But what if that neighborhood was great already and it just needs a little bit of improvements here or there? Or the residents know exactly what they need, right? But you haven't talked to them.
Right.
And so if you want to make any neighborhood or community better, how could you do so without speaking or at least engaging with who's lived there?
Yeah.
And I think when I started these tours, I was kind of apprehensive about walking through the neighborhood just because that's where people live. You know, walking toward a dude on a microphone.
Yada, yada.
Yeah, right. But the more I realized that this is history that we're proud to share and we love sharing and we want to share when we have the opportunity. As I start walking through, you see different neighbors come out and just let people know what this neighborhood with this district truly was. Because no matter what I show on pictures or videos, you can't understand. So if anybody's trying to plan the city, those pictures and videos won't do it for you either. You got to go talk to these residents like we did when we did on our walking tour.
How do your walk and talks and other forms of art help reshape public narratives about this community that we're living in?
Well, there's a great artist here in Indianapolis named Ashley Nora. And one thing I took away from hearing her talk, she does great murals, is that the value of public art and public spaces, it's for everyone to interact with, right? It's art that you can look at, it's art that looks back at you. Some art that we have, it's beautiful, it's in museums, right? You gotta be able to get there, you gotta be able to get in there, and then you have to deal with the other people who are in the museum and what's going on. No, there's art that's out here that speaks to us. That art can look like that marker, that art can look like some murals, this art can even look like storytelling that I'm doing. And so when you hear that out here on the street, because I'll talk and anyone can hear what I'm saying, and so it's cool when you get to catch people's ear, catch the ear of a kid, give them a glimpse of what this neighborhood used to look like. And we do that through art that's accessible and art that also puts Black people at the center of it. I think that's so important. For a long time in history, even when we're curating museums, we are neglecting vibrant, beautiful Black history. And so when we put that at the forefront, we put that at the center, we start to see that people do value it, people do appreciate it. It just hasn't always been given the attention it deserves. And so when I put that spotlight, Zoe, when I zoomed in on Black history here, Walker Theater, all Indiana Avenue, when I zoomed in on putting Black people at the center, I started to see how many other people really do value it when it's given to them in a way that they're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm. And it's like a form of social justice.
It is. It's a form of, and for me, even having this conversation, it's a form of it's a form of therapy.
Yes.
This is. It's like something I had to get off my chest. I had to tell this story in a way because it's been told. I'm not the first person to know what's happened to Indiana Avenue. Like I said, there's people who's lived it. But to know this and to know that a lot of people don't know it, a lot of my peers, my friends, my own family, they don't know about this history that's happened here. Okay, let's walk and talk them through it. Because you'll notice things you've never seen before. Like even here we're walking, but how could we notice this? It's hiding from us, right? So we slow down a little bit. We see wait, I can find this prominent corner where there's no buildings, where there's no stuff. This drugstore played an integral role in the social, cultural, and economic life of Indiana Avenue, the city's premier African-American commercial quarter. So if you see this walking around, you're like, Okay, this was it. City's premier African-American commercial quarter. And now you start to answer some of these questions that you may have had. Talk about putting black people at the center. Wasn't no more center than Indiana Avenue, right? This is the center of the center. We're walking it now. It don't feel like it, and that's part of this story, but we're in the center of the center. And that's what I put at the heart of my tours. My tour started here. You know, I could have started at Monument Circle. A lot of people would perceive that as the center of the city, but based off what I know and what I look like, this has got to be the center here. And so we built everything from here, and that's how this whole thing works.
Yeah, because I never would have noticed that, because I'm not walking down here, because you're right.
They don't want, like they don't.
It's not drivable,
no.
Right? But seeing that, I'm like, okay, now I'm curious. Now I want to know more. Now I want to do research, and I want to share that with everyone around me.
No, that's how I felt. I'm like, dang, I got like everyone, all my friends know if you get in the car with me, you're going to walk with me, you're going to read plaques. You're going to stop, and if I see a marker, I'm going to hit the brakes and go check, go see what did that say? Where am I?
Yeah.
I got to know that. And so I do that through history.
Yeah, because once you know more, we can start to do more.
Yes.
To take care of this place.
Yes.
And
it can never be what it was, but it's understanding it and letting that impact future decision making. Like if there's any more districts that get vibrant with life and culture in the next 40, 50 years, hopefully we don't give it the boot. You know, we let it sit there and grow in value, and we appreciate it like we should have done here. We actually help it thrive rather than add to its demise.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, that's what I hope we can do.
In what ways has sharing these stories been medicine and healing, maybe for you, and then also for this community and the city? Because it also has gone beyond Indiana Avenue, right? You have, I think, 8 tours now that you're doing.
8 that are up, and I got even more coming, more cooking. And I think it's good for, especially good for me, because I had a lot that I was impressive. I had a lot that I was thinking about during 2020. Not only was I isolated, so by myself, that was where you're supposed to be during the pandemic, but we had the Black Lives Matter movement going on, and I knew a lot about our history. Not the most, I'm not our most knowledgeable person ever, but I knew what happened to Indiana Avenue and some other neighborhoods, and just, I knew this, and so this is all eating me up inside. Yeah. And I'd always loved Indiana history, but when I was able to gather about 20 people and share with them this history that I wanted to so bad, and not on social media, I didn't want to type it out, I didn't want to go back and forth, I wanted to walk and talk with people about our history and how I was feeling. And so once I was able to get these 20 people to hear me out, like now I'm together, I'm around people, that's what I love. And then also, I'm able to then share some of the things I've been thinking and what's been going on. I think a lot of people are wondering what they could do or how they could learn. There's a point in time where organizations were like, how can they do more? Or people just didn't know what was happening. And so like, I approach this history that people don't know, and that's okay. And so if I have a professor from IUPUI who overhears somehow in a meeting about this neighborhood used to look different and there's still people mad at IUPUI, he doesn't know why, he can go on this tour. I mean, he can do a lot of different things, or she can, to learn about the neighborhood, but they can also go on this walking tour and have a conversation about it and ask questions when they start to get uncomfortable as they're reading some of these things that's happened. And so it's been educational therapy in a way where it allows people to learn and engage in a way that's not attacking them or it's not combative, but also for people who do know about this history, maybe even more so than me, it gives them a chance to just see that it's being told and appreciated and shared. Like, and it's cool when I give kids, I walk around with the green book and some other different things I may have, and when I give kids, I let them touch this history and interact with it, and they see that I'm the tour guide, or they know they're going on some Indiana history tour and they get off the bus and it's me leading it. I can tell that they're excited. They're like, wow. I remember doing a tour, and it was like right at the 500 block, and a girl, she says, wait a second, this is all about Black people. And I was like, you figured it out, huh? And it's a little Black girl, and she's in their class, but like, her face lit up when she just, like, yeah, but it's not, I don't advertise this as Black History advertises Indianapolis indie history, because it is. It's being told by a Black person, so don't be surprised if Black people are at the center of it.
Yeah.
And when she realized that as a third grader, her face lit up. And so like, it's cool that like I get to have that experience with so many other different second and third and fourth graders when they're like, wow, my history's front and center. Anybody notice this? Probably not, right?
Probably
You see that? I doubt most of them even know. Beautiful mural for our beautiful queen, Madam C.J. Walker, all right? And we're talking about entrepreneurship, and I'm an entrepreneur myself. We gotta talk about what that may look like. But Entrepreneurs Rising is a mural done by Indianapolis artist Tasha Beckwith. And she wanted to show different stages of entrepreneurship and what that may look like. And so because Madam C.J. Walker built her legacy here in Indianapolis from 1910 to 1916, we celebrate her when we get the chance. And so this came up within the last year, and it helps tell the story of this neighborhood. But like I said, it's still not quite a neighborhood. So things like this help put place in space. It helps identify place in space. Now, what do we do with that, right? One thing that I've been talking about is that I got these values I like to use, you know, and it's place, it's self, it's movement, it's education. And place, where I am, Indiana Avenue, where we are. All right, so self, me. I'm Black, young, from Indianapolis. Where do I fit in all of this? Movement, okay. Before I get to movement, we gotta understand education. Education is just knowing where we are, right? Knowing the info, knowing stuff about the world. Then movement is what do we do about it, right? We move, okay? And so we show people what we value, all right? And this is it. Summed up in a beautiful mural by Tasha Beckwith. This is what I like to value. It's Black people in Indiana, okay, doing their thing. And so you see a lot of different representations, but I'm trying to build a legacy in Indiana. So if you look like we do and you're wondering where do I fit in here, you can fit in right here, all right? Because there's already someone that's looked like you that's built a legacy right here. And even 100 years later, they're building murals and putting them up for all over the city. So like, if you ever doubt it, what you can overcome, I promise you there is a champion of overcoming who you can look literally up to when you're in the city.
Yeah, it's cool to see yourself in this history because I mean, so often we don't.
Like I've had kids on the tour, like, boys, stand here and go like this. Take a picture like this, you know, like have their buddy take it. This is what we try to create with these tours. And so like you leave feeling like you can accomplish the things that Madam C.J. Walker did because she did it right in this neighborhood we're walking through.
I think it's so cool that you do these like walk and talks with elementary school students. I know you do your like hawk and talk presentations with elementary school students too, and so much more. But how have you seen that work empower young people and then also support their activism? Because I think, you know, so often when we're younger, we're like, okay, all I can do is vote, which I can't do because I'm not 18 yet, or all I can do is this.
Oh, it's great. Kids.
And so how have you seen that?
Kids don't need to be told that they got power, all right? They just need to be encouraged to use it, okay? They know they got influence. They know that they know they have a voice, but sometimes when they use it or when they're excited about something, sometimes they're told to turn it down or whatever it is. I just come to school and I hit this history with a max level of energy and enthusiasm, as it deserves to be taught with energy and enthusiasm because it's that exciting. And so when kids see I'm excited about history, they know it's okay to get excited, right? And as a kid, you don't know exactly when's the best time to get excited and when's it's not. But when we're on this walking history tour, when I come to your school, you're gonna get excited because this history is exciting, it's engaging. Sometimes kids know more about what I'm talking about than adults. Sometimes kids can ask better questions. Adults can be on a tour and they can be blown away by all they didn't know. A kid, they're not blown away by what they didn't know. They're just asking why, how, what? And you're explaining that to them, you know?
Yeah.
In a way that allows them to feel like they're understanding at some degree, and they're asking questions, and everything's history, Zoe. So like, no matter what kids like, whether it's nature, whether it's makeup. I go to school sometimes, there's girls sitting in the school, they're doing their makeup. They're 8th graders, they're doing their makeup as I'm talking. I don't care. This is not, we're not it's not a traditional school classroom setting. I know they're
Yeah.
paying attention in the best way they can. When we start talking about the makeup queen of cosmetics,
Yes.
CJ Walker,
Uh-huh.
their head pops up. They're like, what? She made her money doing what? Like, yeah, she made her money selling hair care products, right? Selling beauty products. And so, like, ain't nothing wrong with what you're doing. Like, as a matter of fact, Madam CJ Walker might tell you do it some more. Listen up to what, you know, being taught to you,
Yeah.
but it ties in so much. We got athletes that are in these schools. And so, like, I talk about Oscar Robertson or the Indianapolis Clowns or the Negro Leagues or just the Christmas Addicts Tigers. Like, there's so much to get excited about, and this history is exciting. And I just want to let kids know it's okay to get excited about what you care about. I'm obviously excited to talk about what I talk about.
Yeah.
So I want every kid to know you can be excited about anything, all right?
Yeah.
And let people know that. And that's what I do here.
I love hearing that, because that goes along with like our learning philosophy that we have, is that learning can happen anywhere. Learning is
Yes.
it's all around us.
Yes.
And also we should give not just adults but kids, right, the time, space, and freedom to explore the things that interest them. So like you were saying, with the makeup, following that, with the sports, with the baseball, just following whatever it is that makes them curious, because that's what makes them excited to learn more.
Yeah,
too.
kids are curious. Like this is a curious conversation. There's a presentation that I give to adults and high schoolers that's called like Curious Kid. That's what it's all about. It's about just me asking myself questions as a kid and finally getting a chance to answer them in this roundabout way as an adult. And I always ask myself questions. And so I think it's cool to teach kids that, and also to show adults that I too am continuously learning.
Kids often, they ask the questions that adults we feel like we can't ask.
Right.
We're uncomfortable asking.
Right. Bounce their energy. You get to see what they're excited about in real time. Oh, that excited you. And you can kind of play with that. Adults, I can tell them something that they're excited by. They won't tell me until the end. Hey, my favorite part of the tour was 90 minutes ago. A kid, when they like what's going on,
they let you know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what I think is cool about their energy. And I try to match that. If not, beat it.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. It gets them excited about the place that they're living in.
Yes,
because
for sure.
I remember growing up, I didn't grow up here. I'm an Indy transplant.
Okay,
but,
that's okay.
I
You're
was
welcome.
always
We'll take
just,
her.
thank you. Just always trying to get out of the city, right?
Yes.
Like I was like, oh, I got to graduate, got to get out of
Yes.
here. And I think getting them excited at that young age, they like tap into the place, they become invested, and they're like, I want to stay, I want to figure out, okay, how can I make, how can I see myself in this place, and what can I do to improve it? What can I do to make more connections to the place, to the people, and all of that? At such a young age is important.
Yeah, and they just explore. They just know they can explore. They just know that, like, it's endless exploration. Anyone who's been on my tour before, they know that, like, oh, wow, you could do this anywhere. Like, yeah, you can do this anywhere. Yeah, anywhere you can walk and see new things. Anyone can do it anywhere. Like, walk your neighborhood and see things you haven't seen before, especially an urban area like this. And I don't know, I just love doing it and showing kids that, showing adults that. Sometimes, one last thing we'll say at this spot, sometimes kids get excited and their teacher will tell them like, hey, or calm down. I'm like, no, that for right now, we're gonna keep that energy, because we're gonna learn with that level of excitement. That's okay.
Right.
It's okay to be excited and learn. You got a big black neighborhood that used to be across the street. Well, it's not here anymore. How's this big black church going to sustain itself? So it's part of the ebbs and flows of the city, but they're not incidental ebbs and flows. The way we've routed this city to flow in the way that what it has, that pushes black people out of communities and encourages other people to settle in there. But I understand the causes and effects of what's happened here. And so talking about where we are, Bethel AME Church, African Methodist Episcopal. AME Church lets you know that there are black people here, and they're here in abundance, okay? And that's exactly where we're standing. Even this structure right here dates back to 1894. This is where Madam C.J. Walker went to church, right here. She walks through these doors to go to church when she's living here in Indianapolis. And now people walk through, hundreds of people every day. It's in a hotel, and that's fine and dandy. I just want people to understand the place in which they are, all right? And appreciate that and value that. You'd be surprised how many people love our history when it's shared, all right? It's just so often it's not shared. And so it's cool to bring people to places like these when we're walking and talking, because it gives you a sense of place, because it's been here since the 1800s, right? Just like Walker Theater's been there since 1927. There are plenty of other buildings that were built around that time, were up, but as this city started to change the way it looked, we've lost a lot of them.
Yeah, and I'm sure it feels like losing a sense of community.
You know, it does.
As well, right?
Of course, like churches are going to be staples of communities, okay? They're going to be pillars of communities. And so wherever there's a big church, there's a big community, and this was going to fit right into that. You know?
What has surprised you most, or maybe surprised one of your, someone that's been on a walk and talk? Like, what has been the most surprising thing for them?
I think it's just like, it's a level of vulnerability that people get in asking questions, and then not only like asking questions, but then sharing experiences, whether those experiences have been positive, negative, whether they're something they're just realizing for the first time, like, wait a second, there were no black people in my middle school. Or, wait a second, I did learn, I had a great teacher, she taught me about this, I've learned about this. And you know, like there's people who kind of knew her, or maybe people who, it's just, I'd like to see, I'm surprised by what people are surprised by it. I think it's cool having that real-time interaction and them realizing this history, or them adding to this, seeing where they fit. Oh yeah, my dad used to deliver to the Walker Theater. I remember he said he'd come down here and listen to jazz, and now I'm here, and this was it. He told me about this. Like, you know, it's cool. I think when people realize they're connected to this history, like more so than they realize, because we're all connected to our history here in Indiana.
Sure.
And so it's just finding that connection and realizing how strong it is, whether you're white, black, male, female, whatever you identify as, or whatever race you are, your history's here. And so I think it's cool to show people that, because when they see it and they see how connected it is, they light up like I am right now.
Yeah. No, yeah. That's why I'm like, I know this is home to you.
Yeah, no, it is. It really is. And talking about this stuff, like, it's obviously changed like my life, and like I get excited to do this and share, and other people have resonated with that. You know, like, wow, this dude's excited, this dude's passionate. I'm like, you better believe it, man. I love this stuff. Like, even up there, that's hiding. You can't see that driving. This is a city where you have to drive around everywhere.
Yeah, I'm like, I've never noticed that.
Yeah, you know, like some of our history we don't put at the forefront. We don't share. We're not as proud of it as we should be. And some of it is a little ugly. It's a little dirty. May not be what we want to put on full display. But we love Indiana so much. We love our history so much. That's why we beat it up. That's how we show love to our city, our community. We learn about it. We highlight what we think is great. And we address what we think is not so great. Okay? And so, like, the elimination of this neighborhood, not so great. But the people and the places who were here before, great. So highlight some of these stories, right? Let the city see them. Don't hide them over here, tucked back over out this way. Let the city see how beautiful and rich our history is, so they can engage with it and be a part of our future. I think that matters. So it's cool when you get to show people that. They're always like, this is cool. I just wish, you know, it faced any other way but this one.
Yeah.
Ain't that something?
I know, just in going on the tour with you, getting to see like what Indiana Avenue looked like, what Walker Theater looked like the 50s and 60s, just drastically different. You're using the past to inform you now.
I don't know anything about the next 10 minutes, but I know a lot about the last 10. And I can start to make some guesses about what may happen in the next 10 minutes based off the last 10. What I liked about the last 10 and what I didn't, and how I can apply that to the next 10.
Sure.
So I can do that with 10 minutes. Best believe I can do it with 10 years, with 10 decades, and look and see, okay, what has happened in the previous 10 years in our community, in our history, and what does that tell me about what's gonna happen in the next 10? And we've made a lot of mistakes. And I know that if we pay attention to mistakes that we've made in our history, we will not make them again. I know that if we don't pay attention and we just loosey-goosey, haphazardly go through the city plan of Indianapolis, we will repeat the same mistakes that we did when we intentionally wiped out neighborhoods. We may do it on accident this time if we don't pay attention to how intentionally it was done the first time.
Right,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think using those documents too, it also like empowers and encourages us to not only, again, use that to inform our opinions, decision-making, things that we can do in the community, but also to record and to document, because who knows you know, what these future generations will be able to use
Yes.
when we're living now.
Right.
We're living history now. So what are you hoping the future narrative will be for these future generations of this space, of Indianapolis?
Man, but I have this like unbelievable optimism and hope that when people know about our history, they will appreciate and respect it. I really do, and so that's why I share it and I scream it out so loud. And so like, the more we know about these Black neighborhoods and theaters and music and spaces and places, the more we'll care after them, because a lot of what's happened here is that there's so many people that did not know about these neighborhoods and our value. And yeah, there's many who did and blatantly attacked it, but I do think this history has so much value when it's shared, and I just want to share that to see how people respond to knowing about it. Because when I found out about it, it changed my life, Joey. I'm not kidding with you. Like when I saw that mural for the first time, that market for the first time, it changed the way I saw myself. It changed the way I saw my city. If someone can feel 0.5% the way I felt after I learned this history, I know they're feeling good. And I want people to feel the way I feel when I'm down here, and that's why I share this history. And I hope it does encourage them to do something.
Yeah, no, it inspires people to get involved, not just in the ways that we traditionally think of either, but I mean, really anything can be like civics, like, right? It can be the art.
Anything. I had my goddaughter on a tour, and then she likes this stuff. She think I'm real cool. She saw the camera on interviewing me, and so we did a little interview. And I asked her. I said, "What'd you learn about history?" She said, "I learned history is everything." And I'm like, "That's a great takeaway from a kid." Man, I just can't understand the value that I feel from knowing where I am.
Yeah.
You know, and not to say that I know more than nobody else. I just know where I am most of the time, and I think that'll give you a leg up.
Yeah.
And so I
absolutely.
encourage people to do the same. I really do.
Yeah, well, I know I'm feeling encouraged and inspired after this conversation. I want to learn more about this place.
This happen. Let's go.
I really,
so much more to learn. There's so much more to learn. You go on 10 walking talks and still know this much about the avenue. That's how I feel. I may be at this much, but it's infinite out here.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more.
Yes.
And just thank you so much for being here with us today. Again, and just sharing so much about why this place is important to you, why it's important to our community, not just in the past, but now in the present, and how it can be important for us in the future as well.
Thank you so much, Joey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hugs.
Thank
Great.
you. Yes.
This is awesome. I appreciate you. I'm glad we got this done.
Yes, me too. And thank you all so much for joining us. Again, we hope that you're feeling inspired, encouraged to learn about your neighborhood and your community. And check out the rest of our Curious Conversations as well. And we will see you next time.